You probably know that in Studio One you can insert effects on any channel, and you may have accidentally used event effects when you're using something like Melodyne, but how and why would you use event effects on purpose? This video is sponsored by DistroKid. Follow the VIP link in the description down below to get 7% off an already amazing price to distribute your music to the world. So I'm going to start off with the most classic example of using event effects, but bear with me because in a moment I'm going to put a spin on this that I haven't seen in any other video. What I've got here is this vocal in purple, and it's got 1, 2, 3, 4 phrases at the beginning, and I want to put a delay effect, but only on that fourth phrase. Now, if you've ever tried to do this, you may have tried duplicating the track, isolating that phrase and inserting your effect as normal, or you may have tried using automation, etc. But I think you'll find this is the most elegant solution. I need to start off by separating this phrase, however, and I'm going to do that by pressing 3 on my keyboard to bring up my split tool. You could of course just select it at the top as well. Then I'm going to make a cut either side of that phrase to isolate it, and I'll press 1 on my keyboard to go back to my normal selection tool. Then I'm going to drag my delay effect from over here in the browser, but as I do it, I'm going to make sure I hold Alt on my keyboard in Windows, or it would be Option on the Mac, and that means that I can drop that effect but only on that event. So I'll do that now, and you can see it's popped up. Now, as a quick by the way, if you happen to close this and can't figure out how to open it again, what you need to do is open your inspector. You can do that by pressing F4 on the keyboard or by clicking on the little eye icon at the top here. So I'll open my inspector, and then if you look right down the bottom, and it may be out of view like mine is now, use this separator to drag it up, by the way. You can see it says event effects here, and then just below that you can see the delay. Now if you can't see this panel, it may be closed and you may need to click on this little arrow here to expand it. So with that open, I can see my effect, and I'm just going to click on that to open it up. Now I've already created a preset with this analog delay just to save us time, which is suitable for this situation. So I'll select that now, and it's called 1 bar because it's a delay that kicks in after 1 bar, and that's what I wanted. So let's have a listen just to the last 2 phrases here. You'll hear one phrase which is normal, and you'll hear the fourth phrase, and then you'll hear the delay. Let's have a listen.
And how is that? I hope he's doing okay. I hope he's doing okay.
So super useful already, right? And that's normally where we end with this effect. But what if I wanted to put another effect on that effect? I want to have a kind of a telephone sound on the delay. So what you might try to do is grab something like an EQ. I'll do that with my Pro EQ over here now and drop that onto the event as well. Again, I'm holding Alt or Option on the Mac, and then you might, create a telephone sound with this. Now I've already created a preset to do that called 1 telephone, and let's have a listen and see what we've got.
And how is that? I hope he's doing okay. I hope he's doing okay.
Okay, it's not exactly what I wanted. I wanted that telephone effect to only be on the delay, but I can't sort of separate it from the original at the moment. So here's my twist. Okay, so I've gone back a couple of steps. I've removed those effects, and this time I'm going to start off by dragging the splitter effect onto my event. So I'll do that now, drop it onto my event. Now sometimes weird things happen when you drop a splitter event, like it opens up some other plugin in the chain on that channel. So I'll just close this off. I don't need that. And I'll go to my inspector again, and I'll open the splitter over here in the events effects section. So I'll just double click that, and you can see I've got this kind of empty splitter effect here. Now I'm going to pin that because I'll be making lots of use of that. So I'll just use the pin tool up there to do that. And again, I'm going to drag on my analog delay effect. So I'll now drop that onto the right hand side of my split here, and you'll see that effect now appears here. And I'm going to double click on that to open it up so that I can actually make use of it, and then I am going to select that preset I had before so that I've got my delay as I want it. And if we have a quick listen, it's going to sound pretty similar to the way it sounded before.
And how is Dad? I hope he's doing okay. I hope he's doing okay.
Okay, that's cool. Now, using a split with the splitter tool is a little bit like creating a bus and putting an effect on it. And generally, when we put effects on buses, we're probably going to put the mix, if that's available on the plugin, up to full, so it's completely wet, because we've got our original signal on the left hand side of the split tool here, okay, if that makes sense. Now I'm going to play it again, but it's probably going to be a little bit too loud. Let's have a listen.
And how is Dad? I hope he's doing okay. I hope he's doing okay.
Yep, so that repeat is way too loud. So what I'm going to do is use this little fader here. If you click just below where that analog delay is, it brings up this fader. I'm just going to drag it down a bit. And I experimented with this before, so I know I'm going to need it at around about, I don't know, minus 11 dB or so. We'll have a quick listen.
And how is Dad? I hope he's doing okay. I hope he's doing okay.
Okay, so we're kind of back to where we were before when we tried to get that telephone effect. But now, because we're using the splitter, we're still going to be able to hear the original sound, and we're only going to hear the telephone effect on the delay. Let's apply it and see. So I'll grab my EQ and I'll drop it, let's say just before, it could be after, but I'll put it just before my delay in this part of the chain here. And then I'll just open that one up and I'll select my telephone effect here, or my telephone EQ. I'll close that and let's have a listen.
And how is Dad? I hope he's doing okay. I hope he's doing okay.
Perfect. That's exactly what I wanted. So this is very much an effect that you can hear, but there's other much more mundane times when I use event effects, and it's very powerful indeed. Let's have a look. So working with the same vocal, I've soloed it so that you can clearly hear a couple of problems that I need to fix with it. The first one is on this second phrase, and I've got a little bit of mouth clicking on there. Have a listen.
I hope you smile along the way.
Have a listen again. You can hear it smiled along the way.
I hope you smile along the way.
So once you hear that, you can't unhear it, and it's quite annoying. The second problem is a plosive, and it's on the P on the word hope. Have a listen.
I hope he's doing okay.
So those are super annoying, and I've already inserted a couple of event effects to fix them. I just bypass them for the moment, but I'll enable the first one. It's from iZotope, and it's called RX10 Mouth D-Click, okay? I'm not going to go into detail about this plugin, but if I switch this on and go back to that phrase where we had the clicking, have a listen. It should be pretty much gone.
I hope you smile along the way.
So much better. It's like magic, isn't it? And then with the second one, I used RX10D plosive. I'll enable that now and bring it up. And let's have a listen to that fourth phrase where we had the P on hope, which had some plosives on it.
I hope he's doing okay.
Okay, so much better. The only problem is with effects like this, they're really CPU intensive. They can really create a lot of latency as well. So it's a good idea, now that I'm happy with their result, to bake them in. And I can do that with event effects by clicking on this render button. And by the way, it's also going to render the melodyne that I'd already applied to this track. So I'll click on render, and it's going to take a few moments. Now, the important thing to understand here, as I say, if you've got this kind of thing applied to lots and lots of tracks, it can really slow things down for you. So that's why I'm using it. I took up some time there waffling on, and it's all done. So I can play that and listen to it, and it's all applied.
Oh, mother, how are you today? I hope you smile along the way.
You get the idea. But what if I decide, you know what? I do want to make some adjustments to some of those plugins. Well, I can do that by clicking on the restore button. It will restore the original audio and it'll apply the plugins with the settings they had. I can go in, make my changes, and then go ahead and render it again. Now, this is very, very useful for these types of things, but there is another occasion where I use different types of effects and I do bake them in. Now, this may not be something you want to do, but I'm going to show you anyway so you can make up your own mind. So on this occasion, I've got another couple of different types of effects applied as event effects on my vocal. The first one that I'm going to show you here is from Arturia. It doesn't really matter who this is from, by the way. This just happens to be the one I used. And this is a preamp. It's very much based on a classic Neve 1073 preamp. And the reason I've put this in there is not so much to make use of the EQ or anything like that, but to give this a little bit of character, the kind of character I might have had if I'd recorded the vocal through this preamp. Keep that in mind for just a moment while I show you the second effect I've got on here, and this is this tape machine effect. This one's from IK Multimedia. Now again, I may not even make any changes to the settings on an effect like this. I may just put it in there to add some character, some saturation, etc. So I've put that in there, and the way I think of these effects is like this. These kinds of effects would have been on the recording in ye old days, yeah? So they would have been applied at the time of recording rather than being an effect put in the mix afterwards. Does that make sense to you? I hope it does. So that's the way I think about them. And what I try to do is just to commit to the sound that they're making by rendering them. Now, one of the big reasons I'm doing this is to commit to that sound, but when you've got effects like this tape machine, which is again really CPU hungry, then it definitely takes a load off. So look, you don't have to do this. It's just my weird way of thinking, but let me know in the comments down below if it's something you might try or something you already do, in fact. If this explanation of event effects blew your mind, let me know in the comments down below by saying, hey, this blew my mind. Thank you so much for watching today. I'm Mike. I hope you're well, and I'll see you in the next video.